Hello everybody, and welcome to episode 19 of Omnifactory. My name is ZD Sauce, and this creation just keeps on growing. So last episode we worked on automating PVC, or polyvinyl chloride, and yeah, it's working like a charm. We just set up a few more machines, and we basically have another fluid solidifier that is taking in polyvinyl chloride, and then importing the sheet form of that into our storage system. I let it run for a little bit, so we have a bit of a surplus now. We've got about 90, and I also used a bunch to make a ton of these refined circuits. We have 160 of them. I'm sure that won't last us as long as we think it will, but it's definitely a decent start. What I would like to get going eventually, and possibly even start on that this episode, is auto-crafting them up and maybe even keeping some of them in stock. So to autocraft, we're going to need some of these things called patterns, which I've touched on a little bit. But the main reason we rushed polyvinyl chloride and getting that all automated beforehand was so that we could make the second tier 3 circuits, which are a little bit cheaper to make than the electronic. So using the refined processor arrays is a bit better. And there are better versions of this, but I feel pretty comfortable making a good amount of blank patterns with these refined versions, just based on seeing how many of these refined circuits we were able to make in between episodes. It really wasn't too hard to get these. I basically just had to stock up on a bunch of these SMD subcomponents, and then I made a bunch of the plastic circuit boards as well. Where are those living? Okay, I only have 24 or so of them, but I made a stack or so, and then I think that turned into 2 stacks of the circuits, or I guess we get 4 circuits per stack. So I was able to make a decent amount of, we get 4 circuits per sheet. So I was able to make a decent amount of them. But you can see in the upper left-hand corner, we've bookmarked a few things that we want to work on today. So first off, we actually need to make the refined processor array, which is going to knock off some quests. And then I want to use some of the space we have up here to actually set up some interfaces and get some crafting on demand. So I just bookmarked some of the basic machines we want to make, like compressor, alloy smelter, lathe, wire mill. That stuff is good. And then if we have time, I'll also try to automate some of the assembler recipes and make it so that we can automate things like circuits, anything with polyethylene. So we could also automate these SMD capacitors, and then maybe anything with rubber as well. But yeah, so I think first thing we want to do is actually jump into using these refined circuits to make one of these processors. So this isn't unlike anything we've seen before. I am going to use the SMD components, but yeah, we already have everything we got. So if we grab some of this fine tin alloy wire, let's just try to use all that tin alloy wire that we just grabbed to make a good amount of refined processors. So we'll need 16 of those plastic circuit boards and 48 of the refined circuits. Grab this stuff and the plastic, and it'll be 16 of them. Oops, that was wrong. It's always really hard to get the exact amount. And then what else do we need? Okay, then we'll just need 32 of the resistors, transistors, and capacitors. So everything but the diodes. And then I think we'll just need 8 soldering or soldering alloy, and that should be all we really need to make these up. Easy as pie. And then we'll be turning some of those refined processors into these arrays. I guess we can make 4 of the processors arrays in total, which will give us a half stack of the patterns, which I feel like that's a pretty decent starting point. I've also smelted out some stainless steel plates in the meantime, and made a good amount of RAM. I had that from a few episodes ago, so it should last us a while. I am also making up a bit more vibrant alloy. I made 16 in total. I'm getting my ender pearls just by doing the alloy smelter diamonds plus resonating dust, and that seems to be working all right for now. But it's not going to last us for very long. So as I keep on saying, I will get into deep mob learning relatively soon and be able to automate ender pearls that way. So if we bring this over to our basic assembly machine, I think we can just throw everything in here. And the tin alloy. Cool, and that should work. I think I did all my math right. I think that should be 16 processors coming right up. Awesome. So this should complete the quest for the, the third tier 2 circuits. Nice. And yeah, so anything that requires tier 2 circuits, like any MV machine, it's going to be better to use these instead of the electronic components. I think we still have a good amount of the electronic components saved up. Not that many, but definitely a few. But we'll get rid of these eventually. I'm sure we're not going to have any issue getting through them. But going forward, we definitely want to use the refined versions of them. And yeah, I made a lot, but look at that. We've already dipped into them a good amount. And all those circuits I just took out, that's for 4 of the processor arrays. That's kind of crazy. Okay, so for these processor arrays, we are going to need... So we're making, 4 of these in total, so we'll need the 16 refined processors, which we're making up right now. We're also going to need 16 RAM, which they're hiding somewhere. Do we need more circuits? 4 more of these plastic circuit boards. Gonna need to make more of those soon too. And by soon, I mean right now. And then also some stainless steel plates. So let's get 8 of these and compress them up. And then is it just, some more transistors and resistors. And then we are going to need some vibrant alloy wires. So transistors, just need 8, right? Resistors also need 8. And then, 16 in total of the vibrant alloy. I can get that going as well. And yeah, that should also be it. And then just a couple more soldering alloys. Easy peasy. And our processor should be done. Nice, 16 refined processors. That's a pretty solid starting point. And we're going to turn those straight into the arrays once we pick up all of our stuff. Is that everything? I think it is. Do that and then throw in all of our subcomponents. And now we're going to get our processor arrays. That's great. And then we're going to put those into blank patterns. So we're just going to need some polyethylene and then fine silver wire. How much silver wire do I got going on? Not a ton. I'll make up a bit more of the fine silver wire. And then we'll just dump that onto our AE system and it should be able to take care of the rest. Refined processor arrays. We're moving up in the world. We got better tier 3 circuits. And this is a big one too. And I guess this also kind of connects up two of the parts of our quest book as well, because we do need vibrant alloys to make these. And that kind of ends off this section, it looks like. So I think as far as circuits go for early game, or for mid game, I believe this is it. Because the next tier is going to take HV machines, which we need to do HV machine holes. And I think that will happen in the mid game tab, I assume. But yeah, it looks like this this tab is starting to open up with a few things to do. We're seeing a lot of liquids. We're seeing a lot of dusts to get with names that are very difficult to pronounce. But yeah, it should be good. So let's grab our refined processor arrays. We can take this silver wire as well and make those blank patterns. Looking good. So yeah, this should get us half a stack. Oh, that's great. So yeah, this will basically let us define 32 separate recipes. So I'm going to basically make a bunch of compressor, lathe, alloy smelter recipes, etc. that I think I'm going to be using a lot. And then I'll just be able to request them on demand from our AE system and get them that way instead of going back and forth from all our machines. They're also going to be MV machines, so they should be a bit faster than what we have for LV. So that's definitely good to see. So we can collect our reward for the blank patterns here. And I don't think that really opened up anything. I guess it opened up the pattern terminal, but I think that's pretty easy to make. Why don't we do that now, actually? Yeah, that should be easy enough to get. So for the pattern terminal, we just need to make another ME terminal, which requires one of these. An ME terminal is just with a circuit, and I'm going to use one of the electronic circuits, because like I said, we're trying to get rid of them. So anytime we're using a tier 1 thing, we might as well just use these. And then make the pattern terminal. I do have an engineering processor. Awesome. And that should be the quest done there. And I'll just need to throw that on my wall over here. I don't really know where the best place to put it is. I guess I'll just throw it like next to my crafting terminal. I'll be using this a decent amount. But this basically lets us throw in some... Oh, not like that. some of the blank patterns right here, and then we can essentially define recipes that way. So let's say if I wanted to define how to make a block of aluminum, I'll just do it like that. It doesn't actually take the materials to do this, and now I have an encoded pattern. I don't have any molecular assemblers set up yet. I think I do have one in my system, but what I could do is basically just throw this in an interface touching a molecular assembler, and that would have a craft that it could do without any machines. What I'm more interested in setting up is the actual processing patterns though, so that's what I'm going to try to do today. To get rid of the patterns, I think you just shift right click. Yep, that should do it. And then I can throw this pattern back into my pattern terminal. Cool. So I've been trying to give a little bit of thought of how I want to, I guess, line up all my different machines here. So we have this line of cable. So I think it would be best if like the interfaces were all touching the cable, and then we could have the machines on top. But I'm just trying to think of how to do the wiring though, because we're going to need to basically pipe our materials out of the machines and then feed them back into an interface so that it goes back into our disk drives or some type of storage so that the system will recognize the craft as done. So yeah, I think if I do like an interface, do I have any blocks? I can use fluid tanks, I guess. So this is my pretend interface, and then I could just have my machine up here. And then I think if I had like some kind of CEF with the wiring on top, I should be able to just extract my things from the back and then feed them back into the interface. Another thing I thought you could do, but I actually don't know if this is possible, I could play around with it, but is if you use the wrench and set the extract side of the GregTech machine on the bottom, it should be able to go back into the interface, but in that case, I'm pretty sure the interface wouldn't be able to actually pipe in the non-processed materials into the machine properly, so I think we're going to have to use some item conduits to set that up, but that's okay. It might get a little wiry, messy, but I'll try to keep it as clean as possible. All right, so we basically want to make a bunch of these interfaces, and we cannot get enough of these. We're going to need a ton of them moving forward, so I'm not going to be shy in making as many as I can. But for that, each one of them needs a robot arm and then a good amount of aluminum plates. How are we doing on aluminum plates? We could definitely make more. And then we got a bunch of robot arms, which is going to take a lot of motors. So what am I missing here? I need basically a bunch more copper cable, the 2 times copper cable. So this should make a stack of them, which should give us 16 motors, which I think should be decent for now. But oh yeah, we're going to need a lot of motors. That's something maybe I should have prepped before the episode started, but I think that's okay. And then what else does the robot arm needs? Just some tier 2 circuits, and yeah, that should be it pretty much. The aluminum rods are easy to get. I think I have a good amount of them stocked up. And the pistons take some aluminum gears and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm going to craft up a good amount of these copper wires and then pretty much turn them all into the medium voltage motors. And then we can use that to make a bunch of robot arms and a bunch of interfaces. So I'll be back once these finish processing up. Whew, I am crushing through a lot of these resources. I was able to make a decent amount of motors though. So with those motors, I want to make, I have 4 of these machines bookmarked. So I want to make 4 of these interfaces. So that means I need 4 of these pistons, which, do I have enough stuff? I do. And then turn that into 4 of the robot arms. I think I should have everything, right? We need the tier 2 circuits. Let's see, let's get through the rest of these electronic processors first. It's 3, and then I can use the refined I made a few more refined processors while I was waiting as well, because I realized I would need some of them. So we got 4 robot arms, and then we should be able to turn these straight into ME interfaces. I did make the machine holes I needed, as well as some more cores. So nice, 4 more ME interfaces. This is great. Oh, something else I'm actually going to need is an interface terminal. Or I guess I don't technically need it, but it's very nice to have. Interface terminal. Ooh, I actually have to use one of these to get it. So let's see. I'm gonna need a bit more Fluix plates because I need to make another one of those illuminated panels. So let me compress up some of those. I also made even more aluminum plating because we are just flying through that. Something I do want to do in the near future as well is set up some kind of automated clay processing, because that's very easy to get going, and we're going to need a lot of aluminum, basically, going forward. And then the silicon you get from it is also nice to have. Okay, so I'll get one of these, and then that should be everything. And I guess that means we're going to need one more ME interface, doesn't it? Hopefully I have the things I need. Make another robot arm, and... oh, I do need another machine hole. Yay, more aluminum. Yeah, maybe I should do that sooner rather than later, actually, because we are just flying through it. Cool, so now we got 4 interfaces, and then, like we did with the pattern terminal, we can also set up the interface terminal. And maybe I'll just put that over here on this side so we get a little bit of symmetry going. And this is basically going to let us view our different interfaces that we have hooked up. So if I just line these up over here, this is kind of arbitrary for right now. They could move. Although they're not connected to, okay, it says nothing. So they're not connected to any machines as of right now, but once we put these different machines on top of them, we should be able to just see the patterns we put in here directly from this interface terminal instead of having to run up there. Yeah, so it's nice to have. I guess it's not technically needed to do automation, but it makes life a heck of a lot easier. Yeah. Oh, it even says that right now. We don't have to run up to our interfaces to make to insert a new pattern. Great. Cool. It says this is a nice chunk of green now. I feel like this kind of finalized all the applied energistics stuff for this chapter of the game. Besides the big storage disks, but I don't think those are too necessary for where we are right now. What did I just get rid of? I just got rid of my pickaxe. Cool. So we can go ahead and make some of these machines now. It's a good amount of crafting we're going to have to do. There's nothing super fancy about all of this stuff, and you've probably seen me make all these components before. So I'm just going to craft all of these up off camera, and then once I have them, we can bring them upstairs and hook them up and hopefully get some automation going. So I'll be back. All right, we got a nice set of machines here after crushing through literally all of our aluminum. It's, wow, yeah, I swear I had about 200 ingots and they're all gone, just like that. I guess making like 5 interfaces and 4 different machines, that's 9 machine holes, and that's 90 ingots just right there. So it definitely goes by pretty quickly. I ended up having to make a good amount more plastic circuit boards. I'm just gonna let this kind of run in the background for a while. Just because we can never have done with those. And I made more processors because we do need a decent amount of tier 2 circuits for different MV machines. But yeah, I think this should be looking pretty good. Oh, I also forgot I'm going to need a CEF as well, but that should be pretty easy to make. So let me get that going pretty quickly. CEF, let me bookmark this. Okay, we got the tier 2 circuit, that's easy enough. We got some energetic alloy energy conduits, although we might need a bit more of that as well. And then we just need some energetic alloy wire. We only need 2, right? I had 32 in my system already, but I'm going to turn those all into the 4x cabling. So I should get 8 of the 4x cabling, just so I can line up some of the MV machines up there pretty easily, because we need to connect the CEF to that. So if I throw this in here, I think that circuit should be programmed correctly. There we go. Yeah, so we'll get a few of the 4x energetic alloy cables. And now for the CEF. Oh, I never ended up making the machine hole. Get those that I just made. Oh, those were 4x, weren't they? Whoops. A few more. And then the processor, some energetic alloy cables. I actually might need to make more of those energy conduits as well. But let's get the CEF. Oh, and then I'm also going to need a something to... I want to have a bit of a back stuff of power, so I'll just make another flux capacitor. And yeah, I think we're looking good for this. Cool. And how many of those energetic alloy cables do I have? Ooh, that was like all of them. Okay, that's okay. We can go and set things up for now. So yeah, if we come up here, maybe we don't need it actually. So maybe I should just do it here. So let me line up the machines first. The order doesn't really matter at all. These aren't machines we're going to be playing around with. They're going to be, that's why they're kind of on this floor out of the way, because they're all of our automation. Okay, and now if we throw a, where's a decent place to wire power? Well, I guess I'm gonna want the CEF here for sure, right? Wait, one more closer actually. Man, I need some like building blocks. I got nothing. I'm using my tanks as all my building blocks. Okay, and then we want to make the output go to this side, and we need power to come in here somehow. Do we got any power lines? I think just underneath here. Yeah, we can wire some power in that way, but I don't think I'm gonna have enough. If I just do that, is that connected? It's hard to tell from there. I think it is. We'll find out. I am a little bit short though. Let me, just make up a few more of these energy conduits and be right back. Okay, cool. So these are cooking up, and then I should be good to go up there and connect things up. Put away these conduit binders. I will keep the sandstone because I do need building blocks, as I was saying before. And then it's not really going to be pretty no matter how I do. Maybe something I can do is share the space with these ME conduits. Because why not? Cool, so that'll insert into here. Okay, it is connected up. We are getting power. Make sure that's only inserting. We don't want this to be a power buffer for anything else. And then this will store up 10 million RF, which is going to be more than enough. And now, if we just do this, we should have power to all these machines. Awesome. Cool. So this should be all hooked up. I don't think we really need to mess with this that much more. Again, not really the prettiest setup, but it will work. Actually, something we do want to do is we're going to need to basically extract all of these back into the system. So we're going to need a item conduit that's going to insert here. And then it doesn't really matter if they go back into their respective interfaces. So if we just make all of these extract always active, I think that should be all we have to do. And now, I don't have anything I can test this with, but let's go make a pattern, and I'm assuming things should work out decently. So if we go to our pattern terminal here, what pattern do we want to be our first one? How about aluminum plates? Because that is something we need a lot of. So if we click on this, you can switch between having a crafting and a processing pattern. So the processing pattern basically means that it's going to use some machine to get the desired output. So if we go, oops, I had it up. I don't know why I took it away. So we look at the recipes for this and then say, okay, so we want to be using a compressor for this. So it will take one aluminum ingot, go through the compressor, and then return a aluminum plate. And that is all the encoded pattern is pretty much saying. All that work for that very, very simple, dumb statement. But now, if we go back into our interface terminal, so this was saying like the interfaces were connected to nothing before, but now we can see their respective machines that they are touching. So we want to put this pattern into our compressor. And now that the pattern is there, if we look for aluminum plates, if we take all of them out, they still show up and say, hey, we can craft them because we have this pattern in the system and you told us it would act this way. So hopefully we did it right, and hopefully it does do it that way. If items are in there, we can still middle click on our mouse, or I'm sure that's some key binding you can do, and you can still craft them up that way. Oh, did not think about this. One other thing we are going to need are crafting CPUs. I don't know really how that slipped my mind, but yeah, that is something that's really important. So crafting CPUs are basically what Applied Energistics uses to craft. I mean, you need some kind of processing power. It doesn't just do it automatically. So we need to make one of these and then hook them up to our system that way. Are there quests for crafting CPUs anyway? Okay, we made a crafting unit, but I think we might have used that for our crafting terminal. Or maybe not. Do we have any kind of crafting? Okay, we do have a crafting unit. So if we want to use that to make a 4K crafting storage, I feel like that should be enough for now. And we'll want multiple of these in the future so that we can do multiple crafts at the same time. So we just need a 4K ME storage component, which shouldn't be that bad. We are using the electronic circuit. Okay, so 3 of these. Oh no, red alloy plates, please. Okay, 4K, what else do we need? I think we have logic processors, so this should be pretty straightforward. We just need a couple more red alloy plates. Cool, and now if we want to make a 4K storage component, we do have everything. Do we have any of our electronic processors back? Nope. Ooh, wow, that's our last refined processor as well. Oh, how many circuits do we have left? Oh man, we've already gone through like 100 of them. That went so quickly. Okay, I'm gonna need to make a bunch more in between the episodes, I suppose. Okay, so now if we make the 4K storage, ooh, what happened there? 4K storage, I don't want that. And I think this is all we're going to need. I don't think there's any kind of quest associated with that, but that's fine. And doesn't really matter where this lives. I'll put it here for now. And yeah, you can see it turns into this color when it's actually connected to the system. And these are also multi-block structures. So something I might end up doing is there are also these crafting co-processing units. And I think that allows, it doesn't say anything in here, but I'm pretty sure that allows the crafting storages to do multiple crafts at once. I'm not quite sure how it works exactly, but it's something along those lines. Oh, we could also do a crafting monitor to like track our crafting process, but not as important. But now if we go back down, since we have a crafting CPU, I think we should be able to request that craft. So if we go to aluminum plates and do this, so we had 25, right? Okay, let me actually do a couple and then we can go see and make sure it's working. And use up like all of our aluminum. So I'll request 4 of these, and now let's run up here. And yeah, we can see it's on. So the interface basically brought in the inputs that we specified, and then threw them into the compressor, and now those item conduits we did on the back extract the actual item from the compressor, and then put them back into the interface, which, if you didn't know, if you throw anything into here, it just puts it into the system. So we should have gotten a few more aluminum plates. Yeah, we went from 25 to 29. So that's pretty much automated. So what we can do from here is just make a bunch of patterns. And then whenever it's like, oh man, I really need like steel rods right now, I don't have to go and do stuff. I can request it and kind of forget about it, do something else really quick, and get some stuff going. The next step, it would basically be finding some way to always keep things in stock. And then using those crafting cards that we made a while ago, we could make it so that the interfaces can automatically request crafts from the system, and then just have like, oh, I want to have 64 circuits in stock all the time. But yeah, I would say that is some successful auto crafting right there. We have some interfaces lined up, and yeah, I'll spend some time and figure out what types of patterns we use a lot, and then we can basically throw them up in here. But just a few off the top of my head, like we definitely want aluminum rods as well. So like, oh, I need to do it in here. That's another one we could do. And since I'm fancy, I can just, if I just do that, that's the pattern we want. It takes 1 aluminum ingot, and actually no, it gives 2 rods, doesn't it? So if I take that pattern and put it into our lathe, we should also be able to do that. And just to make sure the different types of machines work, let's request that. So I want 2 of these rods, which will take 1 of these ingots. Oh, this is the button I was looking for. So you can see the different crafts that are going on as well in your interface. But yeah, we got those two rods that we were looking for. This is great. And now we have a good stack of blank patterns to use as well. So the thing I want to do next, which is going to be a bit more complex, and I'm not sure if we have time for it in this episode or not, is I want to set up these interfaces with assemblers as well. But the reason that's tricky is because the assemblers need fluids. And it's not super simple to work with fluids with applied energy sticks. So what I think we're going to do is basically have a fluid extractor and an assembler associated with one interface, and we have some kind of buffer chest, and then it can pipe in the items how we want it to do it. So I'm gonna maybe try to set up for that. I also want to see how long this episode is running though, and then that could be something we want to do next episode as well. All right, so I don't think we're going to try and automate the assembling machine stuff today, but there's something else I want to do before we finish things up, and that is get normal crafting set up. I touched on it briefly previously, but if you have an interface touching a molecular assembler, we can set up crafts that are just used in like a normal crafting table. And that's obviously useful because a lot of things are made with those autocrafting things. So we're going to need one more interface. So I need another robot arm. And I'd already made the machine hole. Cool, I got everything. And then we did make a molecular assembler earlier for a quest. So these are also multi-block structures. So a good pattern would be like, okay, you have an interface and then a molecular assembler. And a molecular assembler is essentially what is doing the craft. So we can have multiple assemblers like touch the same interface, and then it has multiple to choose from, and things just get a little bit more efficient that way. But we can make some kind of like checkered pattern with interfaces and assemblers, and then have all of our normal crafting set up there. So I don't really know where to put this for now. I think I'll just throw it with the crafting storage for now. It doesn't really matter, and I'll probably end up redesigning this room eventually to be a little less ugly, especially this corner. That is a very ugly corner. It's one of those things I was like, this is temporary, but it hasn't changed since then, so we'll see eventually. But yeah, we can see a little bit of colored lines around the molecular assembler, which does mean that it's online. So if we go down to our interface again, we should see, yeah, molecular assembler as something we can put patterns into. So just to test that out, I don't know, what's something that is a pattern we'd want? What if we want to turn wood into wood planks? Let's make that a pattern. I don't know if I'll keep this one or not, but we can do this, and then if we go to our wood, we should see, just like with the processing stuff, we can craft wooden planks. So if we want to make 4 of those, that should just happen. And so basically, it's the same idea where the interface took the inputs, and then it has some output machine that it's connected to. So it took the wood, put it into this molecular assembler, and then molecular assembler basically knew what to do with it. I'm not really sure exactly how that works, but molecular assembler said, hey, okay, thanks for the wood. Here's some wooden planks, and tosses it back to the interface, and the interface just pipes it back into the system. So a bit less complex to set up than the actual machinery, but it's definitely useful to have, and I'm going to have a bunch of these eventually. The good thing about having the crafts be auto-crafted is, let's say I wanted to make an autocraft recipe for like an MV motor or something. If I have processing auto-crafting set up for these aluminum rods, for the magnetic steel rods, stuff like that, and I don't have them in my inventory, but then I request this electric motor, it can set off the auto-crafting chain to have the processing stuff do it, where I can't do that if I don't have a pattern associated with it. So it is really useful, and so even for like the less complex final parts of making some component, it's necessary. But yeah, this is gonna do it for this episode. I really appreciate everybody tuning in, and yeah, this is a nice little line we got going. It's a very, very small portion of all the autocrafting we're going to be setting up eventually, but it's definitely a start, and it's a pretty exciting landmark having a set of machines that are just dedicated to our AE system and doing autocrafts that way. But yeah, this will do it for now. So thank you very much for tuning in, and I will see you on the next one.